Hey, hi everybody. Sammy's in the background. She's gonna hop in right now. Hey,
I was like,
Sammy.
wait, what just happened?
I like
Hi.
how you
I don't know
you
how
like
that
just tuned
happened.
in from Tennessee. Good morning.
Heck yes. Good morning. Good morning. For those of you that don't know, I'm Sami Zoss.
And I'm Tim Lockie,
That's where
CEO
Tim
of the
goes in.
Human
I'm Tim
Stack.
Lockie.
I think there
We're
might be a
working on it.
delay. I think there might be a delay here.
Oh no. Okay, well, I will work on that here in just a moment. Do you want to introduce today's topic?
I do want to introduce today's topic. So, welcome everybody. If you haven't been here before, I'm Tim Lockie. This is Sami Zoss. Sammy is in Tennessee this morning at the National Council of Nonprofit Shindig. What is it actually called? Convene, I think.
It's
So,
called Convene. Yeah,
okay,
there's
convene.
definitely still a delay. Whatever it is. I will be right
I
back.
know.
Google it in chat.
Painful. All right, I will carry on. Today we are going to be talking more about prompting. So this month is Prompt Up Your Jan, as in January. And we're going to talk about what happens when it all goes wrong with prompting, how you can recover, how you can find out what those mistakes are, how to evaluate what's going on. And we'll be looking at why that happens and what you can do about it. So if you have not already checked this out. I'm just like looking in the background here. Okay, Megan, welcome. So glad to see you this morning. Any questions that anybody has about prompting, please throw them in
Let us know.
the chat on and we will take a look at those and let's get started. Sammy, how's the delay? Are we still delayed? Where are we?
I can't decide. Are we delayed?
I don't think so. I think that was better. So
Super
we'll see.
weird. Well, sorry, friends. This is what I get for being really excited to play the game of like, where's Sammy? I did tell a lot of people about that last night, that it's been a while since I've like made you guys guess where I am. So I was excited about it. I'm actually in one of the state theaters. It's called the Play. I'll have to find the official name. But I am in Memphis, Tennessee here, and there's just so much history in this place. So this is actually called Pat's Cafe within the Playhouse here. Um, but being from South Dakota, I think I underestimate how much history I forget, like where it happened. Do you know what I mean? Like I know,
Yep.
but I forget like the tanks were driving down this street at MLK, like for MLK, like that. Excuse my language, but that shit's crazy, right?
Yeah,
Like this is
totally.
so cool to be here.
Yep.
Um, and
I feel
so
like
I
that's true of
love.
Montana as well. I just have to say the same thing. Like when I travel around to places, I mean, I get this sense in on the East Coast, West Coast, and Europe, right? I'm just like, wow, this is where it happened, right? All the time. And
Yeah.
in Montana, I'm like, all right, this is where John Bozeman got shot, right? Like, just
Oh,
not the same.
and I think
So
about there's so many things I could say about the history of South Dakota. I love my
yeah,
state,
yeah.
but the way we've treated the native
Oh
territories has
man.
not been
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, oh, okay. Like when I found out who John Bozeman was, I was like, why did we name a town after this
great.
dude? Right? Like over and over. Anyway, okay. On
Crazy.
to content for today. We are talking about prompt up your
Yes.
Jan all month. So if you don't know, the way that we develop content is that we kind of have an idea and then I show up and find out what we're talking about. I really
Which,
like
for what it's
that.
worth, there are times that is awesome. There are times that stresses me out, and Tim does well with both.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to say it. That's a good way to say it.
Oh,
Okay, so introduce us to. I mean, I told everybody that we are talking about what happens when prompts don't roll your way, what to do about it.
mhm.
So that's the general topic, but take us in.
Yeah. So, I actually want to show. So, the biggest goal of today, right? Like, my goal for people as they're watching, either with us live, as we know Megan and others are, or if you're watching sort of after the fact, my goal is that you get to the end of this episode and you understand new methodologies to use AI to fix its own mistakes, right? So often we get trigger shy because we've asked for a grant report and we thought we gave it all the context we needed, and then all of a sudden we don't like that grant report because it's either hallucinate. The fact that I still hear about hallucinations tells me this is a topic we should have visited long ago, right?
Yes. That's the right
Don't get me
analysis. Yes,
like,
100%
don't get me
agree.
wrong, there's still a rare instance in which hallucinations can exist. It's just
Sure.
our models have gotten so much better. There's no
Yep.
reason that should be the reason you're not using it anymore. That's for sure.
Okay, unless you're using the free version. I've got to keep
Wouldn't
coming
know.
back to
Yeah,
this.
wouldn't know.
Because
Bougie.
I took heat on YouTube for saying buy Chat GPT. Like people were like, "You're a shill." They were like,
I'm gonna find
"You're
that.
getting
We're gonna
paid
play
by
that. We're gonna
getting
take a
paid
break
by
and I'm gonna play
OpenAI."
that
I was like,
video.
"I would love to be getting paid by OpenAI, but no, that's not true. It is for your sake that I'm saying this, which is pay for it because it is smarter. You're literally like that's the product is intelligence and you get what you pay for. So I just want to
Yeah.
say hallucinations will happen at a higher, much higher rate on all free versions. Period. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And I think so what's really fun is so back to what Tim was saying about like how we prep content. I prep content. We almost never get to the content I prep. Let me be so for real with everybody here. So what often that we do is either I come up with a better idea as I'm prepping the content, or I know Tim's like Tim and I talk far more than just this episode, right? So we're constant like I know the stuff that he's working on, and I'm like I'm actually just and that's the beauty of Tim's only allowed to show up 5 minutes before and learn what we're talking about that day. He is willing for me to say, you're gonna talk about this and you're gonna figure out how to fill the 10 minutes that I put aside for you to do that. And he does. So it's good. But what's so funny is so I was telling Tim today about how I'm going to demonstrate today's, and usually I try to recreate anything in our human stack environment. Today I'm going to show you my personal one because I built it all in there, and there's no need to recreate it, but to show you how I'm using it, just sort of like in a day to day piece, because it didn't work for me right away. So I was doing something last night. So I'm here at the National Council of Nonprofits called Convene, like Tim said, and it's for the CEOs and executive directors of your state nonprofit associations and then the ally members. So there's 50 people here from across the country. We had somebody fly in from Hawaii, which is crazy. And we're just all here in little old Memphis. And we had this exercise last night that we had to essentially create a logo based on groupings of us as we self-identified like a superpower at work. So mine, I actually put AI curiosity. I feel like that's my like superpower in my profession is encouraging curiosity with AI, right? Um, and I was with a group that the only other sort of like similarities I could find was ask. So someone said like their superpowers is being asking questions, and another was evaluate. And we grouped together and we made the company curiosity, right? So like that was our one word concept was curiosity. And then the logo that we designed was a brain, which by the way, I did freehand and I will show you that image because it took me a beat to get the brain, but it was super fun. Um, and so I want to show you that. That's a little preview that I'll show you, and then I will actually walk you through sort of how I got to the end result that I did. Um, one more time. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is the one that my group ended up drawing. I'm so excited to show you this, Tim. Tim hasn't seen this yet either. So most of the time when you see Tim reacting, it is
It
genuine
is
reaction.
it is in the raw.
Okay,
Oh,
so
all right, that's cool.
right now, if you look really closely, you'll see the pen marks where like
Yeah,
we tested
right.
it. There's also apparently there's only one U in curiosity, and there's not one there. So that's awesome. And I had to present that in front of 50 state leaders. So it was so great.
Sometimes I feel like you and I share a brain, and this is one of those moments because that
Yeah.
is classic. I love it. Yes.
Well, and I also love that like this group didn't say anything about that. They just giggled. And then when I sat back down, they were like, is the extra you for like you being curious? And I was like, you asshole, you're the worst. Trash.
That is
So I took
awesome.
that and I'll explain how I got there, but we ended with this as a logo for our company,
Oh, very
right?
cool.
So
Yep.
I wanted to take these very like they're on a piece of paper. I don't know how I take those home with me to learn and like remind myself of some of the things that I've learned here. And so my brain immediately went to like how can I use the tools at my disposal? And it's not always AI. And that's something I hope we have an episode soon, Tim, where you and I can talk about the dangers of misinformed knee jerk going into like AI is always the solution. I would really like to talk about that because the more
Oh,
I see adoption in our space, the more I actually get a little nervous about what adoption means and how, I mean, I had hours of conversations explaining why this took a while to create and why it is helpful, but how just quote going to AI is not only is it not helpful, it's irresponsible, it's inappropriate, all the things, right? So one second. They're heading out here in a second, sorry. Okay, so as you can see, I created a new, you can see I also help with pickleball here. I created a new a new conversation for each. So I started
okay.
with,
For the sake of everybody, including me, I'm going to
yeah,
say,
yeah,
can you zoom
yeah,
in? Thank you.
whatever.
Yeah, thanks. There you go.
Ridiculous. I know, but then it doesn't, how
It
do I
could be a
hide
little bit
my,
smaller. You could do down. You can go down too.
okay, thank you.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I thought
that's
this would be a
perfect.
good one to start with. Really simple logo, right? Like
Yep.
not simple in concept. Actually, when they explained it, it was a really awesome thing to hear. But these essentially were the people whose superpower was team building.
Hmm.
And I was like, again, to last week's conversation, I literally just was like, can you turn this into an official logo? Because I knew I didn't know what I wanted to prompt it. And so one thing that you'll find, friends, that like is different between Tim and I is Tim, I think you do a really good job of figuring out the right way to mostly prompt from the start. My variations of getting to the right prompt start with doing it wrong first and getting to the right prompt. Like I use it to, it's a little bit of a lazy way to get there, to be honest, because I'm like, I don't want to think about it that much in front because it's still not going to be what I want it. So I'm just going to get what I don't want and then tell it once we get to what I do want, how do I make it better? Right. So
Yeah,
then
I've
it
got
gave
to
me,
say, I actually am very similar to that. My first thing is to
are
get
you?
something out there that yeah, my line for it is you'll know what you don't like faster than you'll know what you will like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yep.
goal is to get anything out there that you can react to, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
anyway, this is really
I think
cool.
you're just better about not showing everybody the
Yes,
the in
right.
between the whatever where how the sauce is made. So this was the start. And one of the things when they were explaining this was like how it was really important to have the different colors and what they meant. And I don't need all of that communicated in the logo, but I definitely wanted to make sure the colors were different. Sorry. Um, so
Bless
then
you.
I was like, I want to make sure we have these three distinct colors, right? Like separate out anything else. I just want the graphic, not the scene, because it gave me, my friend Mark in the image here and stuff. And then it just gave me the graphic, but I don't know. That doesn't feel like the same thing. I'm like, it's getting closer. It's just doing the image, whatever. And so then I was like, I literally just like, come on, figure it out. And I think it's really important to show this conversation because I want people to understand that like you and this is how we work together. Like this is how we work with AI. This is how I would work with a graphic design company as I'm trying to figure out like the iterations that I want, right? So then I finally got it to do the colors that I want. Don't know why it's showing building twice. That's so weird. And then finally I was like, all right, help me figure this out. Like, what's a better prompt I can use? Because I have a lot of these and I want to turn each into a real logo. Then I thought maybe I should give them an example or like give the context here. So it's like they were from an exercise where groups of us convened based on our self-identified work superpower. We took it and then had to make a logo in one word and one concept. Then it gave me kind of a longer one, but I would have had to self-identify the superpower, the colors, and name the image. And again, I'm lazy and I'm doing this on my phone while we're also like talking, right? So I want to be present and like listening to what we're doing, but my brain can't stop until this is complete. Because in my mind, I needed this. Um, so I want to talk about how, so essentially what I did was I was like, what if it could take, because I know Gemini in particular, Google infrastructure is really good at analyzing media, multimedia inputs. And so I was like, well, why can't it just confirm the colors and the name and then make the final graphic? Right. So my ideal output there would have actually been, got it, Sammy. I see the word is curiosity. Here's the colors I identify. Is that correct? And like, here's the general overview of what I'm seeing. Is that correct? Then I say yes. Then it goes and generates. That was like sort of my thinking of how this would work. So it kind of gave me some feedback. For what it's worth, AI is always going to tell you you're amazing. So I
Yep.
don't care how many times you tell it to tell you that you're not. It absolutely will. So Don't fool yourself. Then it
I
it
mean,
gave me a
you are
reusable prompt.
absolutely amazing. That part's not true. It's just not every one of your ideas and prompts is.
Yeah, or like I'm like, wait, is this a new concept? They're like, absolutely a new concept. And I'm like, no, actually look. It's like your overeager assistant. Like, knock it off. So then it gave me a new prompt, right? And I do want to read this prompt because I want to talk through some key things that I don't think I would have realized matter as much as they do without our friend Jonathan Edwards and the work we've done with AI Cred. So I want to kind of
Mhm.
tie those together here really quickly. So, act as a professional graphic designer specializing in corporate branding. Your task is to transform the raw concept in this sketch. And then what I did was I just said in the attached image rather than the actual name of the image because I was only attaching one image at a time. So I wasn't worried about it getting confused with other images. Into a polished final logo. Follow these steps precisely. First, analyze and confirm the elements, right? So examine the image,
Mhm.
do you know what you're looking at, right? I love
Mhm.
that it added the ignore all extraneous details, notes, names, or margin writing because we added our names in these images. And so I
Mhm.
wanted to be able to, I didn't want to have to ask it to remove that every time. Detect the color palette. That's pretty self explanatory. I love that it was like, doesn't matter how many are there, what is actually in those, like that end design. This is where I was like, oh, Jonathan taught me the power of specific language that because I'm
Yeah.
a viber, not a coder,
Yeah.
I do know now, but I wouldn't know in general, right? And so
Yep.
vectorize and polish. Vectorize is sort of, it is, for those of you that don't know, a vector format is a format for an image that is typically a graphic and it allows you to resize really easily, recolor really easily. It's what your graphic designers put their like designs in. By stating that I want a vectorized format, it knows exactly the type of logo and type of like image generation I'm looking for. So I'm not just saying generate an image or generate a graphic. I'm saying I want a like very polished vectorized illustration. And I think because when I'm writing and analyzing, like, is this prompt going to work? I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, never mind, this is awesome. This is exactly what I wanted it to do. And then another one is isolate that I really like because I probably wouldn't have used that exact language. I would
Mhm.
probably say something like I did, which is only use the image,
Yeah.
don't use the other crap. Well, a much clearer and concise way to get to that language or to get to that end result in the language that AI understands better is something like isolate. And so I'm frequently finding these moments where I'm like, God damn it, Jonathan Edwards, like you and your stupid, it's not stupid, obviously. I was the one that was excited to bring him on, all that stuff. But I'm like, you and your stupid analysis of my inability to communicate in this language. And that's why I'm a 7 point whatever I am. Like, I swear you're wrong. He's not. He's absolutely correct. Um, and then I love that it gives me sort of like an explanation here, like why does this work better for what you're trying to do, right? We don't necessarily need to get into that, but so then I ended this conversation by having a prompt that I could use. So then,
Okay. Before you
mhm,
move on, and you can tell me like I can do this in a second, but I want to just actually talk through what how what you learned can help everyone. But if you want to finish, like show people something final, that's great.
let's
But
show some of the finals because
okay,
there's one
great.
more lesson I learned in this.
Okay, let's do it.
And then let's maybe come together, do that. And then I want to talk through some other examples that maybe you and I see in our everyday, Tim.
Okay.
Megan, knowing that you're our chat warrior today, if you have any sort of target outputs that you often find you can't get to, or you often find AI messes up just a little too much for you to want to push through and figure out, put those in the chat for us. Megan, because we can do it about Ruth Ethiopia. You know, like we can focus it on your org so you can take it. But I'm also interested in like what's your day to day application. As somebody who's, I mean, she's a day to day app like practitioner of AI, and so I feel like she's got a good grasp on this. But I know that I'm finding these every day. So I know Megan is. I know you are. Um, Okay, this is by far my favorite logo that a group came up with. There was two of them. One is our friend Adam in Montana, actually.
Oh, cool.
Their superpowers were like spreadsheets or Excel, which I love that they went with, right? And so a couple fun things just about this here. So it's Excel Lens, which We love a good pun, right? Like
Oh, that
big
is
fan of our
awesome.
puns.
Yep.
Um, and then they drew sort of like a chart, right? Like a line chart on, and then they were super cheesy and they were like, the data shows, that our impact increases exponentially the more states we have at the table. And I was like, beautiful work, friends.
Yeah.
This is so
Right.
great. But I was like, this is a challenging one to turn into a logo, right? Like there's a lot happening here. How do they take that and turn it into a logo? So I took it, I gave it our prompt just to show you. Like,
Yep.
I think I
Right.
literally, yeah, examined the image or
Yep.
the attached image.
Hmm.
And then otherwise I didn't change anything. This is what it gave me.
Oh, wow. That is
So
not
good.
that is not terrible, right?
For like what I was trying to do, which is basically sort of like a brain dump and something that we could then
Mhm.
send out to members sort of as like a
Yeah.
reminder of the week.
Right.
I was like, damn,
Yeah.
I can get behind this logo. Like, yes, if you were to actually make a company logo from this, but I would hope you would never just try one or two prompts to get your company's logo if it's trying to be like an actual full corporate logo, et cetera, right? But talk about getting you 80% of the way. But I would
Absolutely.
not have gotten this if I wouldn't have sort of like failed on the other one. Um, I want to show you a couple of the examples just because they're fun and I think the groups just were very creative. These are the people who like will brave the waves with you kind of deal.
Hmm.
That was sort of like their superpower, and this is what it failed at first because I had started here.
They're
Sorry,
holding that.
I didn't realize this. So I did the team builder one, right?
Right.
And I was like, okay, let's try this again. Amazing, beautiful, perfect. Again, not an actual corporate logo, but like for the actual result that I wanted, amazing. Then we had a group that were, I love this. So they were both, they had the same name. They were both cheerleaders, and they both went with like champion, or like their superpower is being the champion for people. And so I loved this design, and the logo concept was pretty simple with it. But I also love like little things that it's doing that I don't even know how to explain why it knew to do this, but like
Hmm.
the
They
idea
kept it
that
hand
this
drawn.
still feels hand drawn, like
Yeah.
it's meant if this were a logo, that's how this would work. Like I love that. But here is where I realized I didn't have what I would consider a perfect prompt, which you never have a perfect prompt. But I put your wave bravers in here, and then I got this, which makes our champion here. And then they were just
Yep.
holding the wave bravers.
Right.
And I was like, what the hell happened here? So I realized then I had two options in front of me. I could perfect the prompt so I could just keep a conversation going and not have to start over every time I wanted a new logo. Or because there were 6 or 7 designs, I could just start a new conversation every time for the 6 or 7 designs I wanted. So I opted for the second. Um, and so this was what Wave Bravers turned into, which is great.
Yeah.
Much better than what we were having, right?
That is.
Um,
Yeah.
I
No,
just
that
think,
is really good. Yeah.
do you see why so Tim and I talked earlier and I was like, I want to go through just some of the like, I get that this is different because it's not exactly what I planned to go over, but I think it's
Okay.
really
So I
important.
want to ask you about that. Do you want, for the rest of the time here, do you
Hmm.
want to
Hmm.
focus on the images that you're creating, or do you want to be focused on what you can learn from prompting? I want to know which
I
direction you want to take this.
No, I appreciate it. I think we've taken most of what we can from the images.
Hmm.
I was trying to think if there was one other mess up along the way that I wanted to. It was this policy one. I think the demo from these has done what it needs to do after this one, and then the rest is you and I sort of talking through like the why and the how to get ahead of it. I think I've given a really good tangible example that is a really easy to duplicate. Like, all right, I don't like what you gave me. Here's a little more context. What's a better prompt? Let's massage that out together. Get us 80% of the way there. But I think you and I, as we continue to find, there are many other ways to second time the prompt, right? So the last one I wanted to show you is there's a gentleman who's in his own group in his policy, and he was basically trying to note like the carrot weighs more than the stick, meaning
Oh, I love that
policy geared
idea.
towards, oh yeah, no, you would love, his name's
Yeah,
Jiminy
totally.
Boston.
Yeah.
But I don't love this,
Yeah. It's not working.
right?
Not working.
So I'm like, this feels more like a doodle. I hate this.
Yeah.
And then it gave me this guy, which is a much cleaner. I don't love it as a logo, but as an illustration, as an image, much cleaner, much more like what we were trying to get at here. So you can see, like, even in the ones that I've sort of like worked through and tried to perfect to the extent that I can, there were still going to be some bumps. And I think that was one of the lessons I wanted to make sure people could really take away from this, is that there's going to be bumps. You need to decide whether or not it is worth the 2 hours I could have spent more on that prompt to get it perfect, or because I'm just doing this more for like ancillary, it is still for learning, but I don't need perfect. I need 80%. I need demonstrative, not perfection. Am I close enough? And can I use the tools at my disposal to make this happen quicker to get me where I need? Versus, so it's kind of like the, do you need high quality and high quantity? Then you need to spend a lot of time on the front end refixing what isn't working on the input, right? So to back to last week's lesson. But I wanted to show, like, it doesn't have to be that. If you're just trying to get a quick output, like if you're trying to find a fun social media post every week for Wacky Wednesday, like you could probably get
Yep.
yourself an 8% of the way there prompt. And then every Wednesday, just know you're going to spend 2 more minutes deciding whether or not you like the one it gave you that week, you know? So first of all, I want your thoughts on just sort of like the process that because I did that last night. Like this wasn't one of the ones that we'd sort of like pre-done. Um, and then some thoughts on how you kind of go through maybe some examples, or like, how do you fix it when AI doesn't get it right the first time? What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the first thing I want to note, and could you pull
Also,
up? I can't read
this is
that. What does it
Red
say?
Bull in the morning.
All right. Um, okay. So when you were going through your prompt there, I want to
Hmm.
just talk through what is going on behind the scenes. So,
The one where I was building the prompt
well,
because I
before
didn't
you
like it the
hop
first
into
time.
that, yeah, we'll hop into that in just a second. But just
Hmm.
conceptually, everybody should think of prompts in two categories. There are simple prompts and structured prompts, right?
Hmm.
And so, really, what you're doing is you're talking about the process of going from a simple prompt to a structured prompt that you can use. It doesn't matter if you use
Yeah.
it over and over again. That's a separate thing, right? That's like a template. You can use a structured prompt one time and it's still fine. So humans are
Yes.
lazy. We are good at simple prompts. We are not good at structured prompts. We shouldn't try to be good at structured prompts. What we should do is use a tool and know the first thing I'm doing is creating a structured prompt. Now, that's
Yeah.
the difference between something that you create and something that it creates. You can create your own structured prompt and then enhance it, but I will always say AI is going to always be better at creating structured prompts than humans are, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Because again, it knows to use words like vectorize and isolate and,
Yes.
ugh,
And so that goes back to the second thing I want to say,
I
which
got to
is that
Jonathan actually.
what this did is it broke it down into a sequence. And some humans are really good at understanding sequence, and others aren't. Like all of us, I think, struggle to know when we are sequencing out in our thoughts. Like we go through an internal workflow so fast we don't even think that it's a workflow. Right. So I think that
Yeah.
that's the second
Yeah.
thing to know is that the steps, sometimes the order matters and sometimes it just matters that there are these steps, right? The third thing is precision of language. And I want to just focus on something that you said there, which is you don't like you're not a developer. You haven't spent a lot of time in tech focusing on that word, the words that we use here, right? And you haven't spent a lot of time in
Yep.
multimodal AI. So, isolate and vector and all of these things, right? Those are kind of new. But you are
Yeah. especially in
you
my
have
space.
a whole language as a former COO with a team under you around delegation, right? Like when you think about what delegation means, you've got a whole list of specific
Hmm.
ideas and words, right? That you're an expert in. And so you know that when it comes to fundraising, right? And communications for nonprofits, you're in language precision in those areas. Language turns into a symbol just like just like AI tokenizes it, humans tokenize it into a symbol, a mental concept, and then we package the idea. And other people that know that package, we can speak really quickly with them. The cheat
Mm,
code with AI is that you don't have to be an expert to have it surface those ideas for you. So one tip
yes.
on that is to say, so when you say you're an expert in, it's like doing that matrix download thing, for like learning kung fu, just in whatever level or what area of expertise it's in. Yeah, exactly. Right. Totally. So my point
There's
on
your
this
still image from
is,
the episode.
I know. Yeah, no, I hope we do that one because it's perfect, right? I thought you were gonna do like the one where you're like, come on, let's fight. But yeah, either one's fine. Um,
My brain goes somewhere else with that one.
so the point I'm trying to make here is humans should stay in their lane on simple prompts and let AI create your structured prompt and then use it. Do that
Hmm.
in a first chat and then be like, yeah, this is what it gave me. And just know when you start a new conversation, you got to start fresh, right? Um,
Hmm.
the last thing I'll say is a gem. If you use that, it looks like you use that a lot of times. A gem
Yeah,
doesn't have to be something that you're going to use for the rest of your life or a big fancy thing. All a gem is I'm going to use this again and I don't like typing,
yep.
right? So that could have been a gem and it doesn't have to be a really long time. So, um,
Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
yeah.
The Oh, Megan, I relate to this so much. This is so silly, but sometimes I don't have the you are an expert in language just right, and I've had to work on that too. That's a really good point. I was talking last night to some folks who were like, I literally still don't like I just downloaded ChatGPT for the free version for the first time like 5 months ago, which I just can't relate to, right? I'm like, I don't even know.
Yep.
What are you doing?
Right.
But explaining it's what's funny is I was kind of going through this concept last night with a gentleman who was talking about I used grant report earlier as an example because one of his staff had given him a grant report that was essentially completely done with AI and he was meant to double check it but it wasn't disclosed to him that it was pretty much done with AI to the point where that person couldn't really explain to him what it was. And so then deadline came and there's a different assumption I make when I know that Tim Lockie, who is always doing my grant reports, gave me something. I don't have time to review it any longer, but he's always got good stuff. We're good. Versus Tim Lockie, who tried it with AI the first time, or one of Tim Lockie's teammates who tried it with AI for the first time, especially for the first time, right? Like, because you get that awe of like, oh my God, this is so great. And then you start
Right.
to realize, like, I can't explain what I'm seeing because I don't know how the sausage is
Yes.
made.
Right.
And that is where AI gets it wrong. And that is the key to making sure you understand how to get it right the next time. Is do you understand the process behind it that got it wrong? Like, can you pinpoint which cog is turning the wrong way so you can turn it the right way? So, like, that's where that conversation I was telling you earlier about that I would love to get into, I get so nervous because so many people are like, well, I just use AI for that. And I'm like, okay, but have you spent the time needed to make sure AI does that right for you? Or are you just assuming I can say something like be an expert in and it'll work? Because to Megan's point, that is not always a well-oiled cog in that machine either. If I need a graphic designer, that's great. But did you notice that this one auto-corrected to a corporate graphic designer because the approach was meant to be very specific, right?
Yep. Right. Okay. Can I
Megan,
just
I
break
get
this?
that. I appreciate that. Yeah,
I
go
want to
ahead.
break that into two different things that I think people conflate and don't see the difference in. But there, So in every prompt that you're doing, you're going to, like, the prompt should create clarity, and
Hmm.
then you should have documents that create context, right? So clarity and
Ooh,
context
yeah, say that
are the
again.
two things. So the prompt, I just want to think about a gem for a second, right?
Prompt
Or a
creates clarity.
or a custom GPT, right?
Hmm.
There are three parts to every one of those. Like, I'm just going to call them an agent, right? There are three parts to every one
Hmm.
of those agents, right? You're going to have a name, the thing you call it. You're going to have instructions, which is the clarity part, where you're like loading up its brain. And then you're going to be able to add files. And those files
Shout out
are,
to Nita. Hi, Nita. Sorry. I always love when people join us.
hi,
New
Nita.
people.
And the files are context, right? So you've got
Hmm.
clarity in the instructions and context in the files section. The thing that goes wrong is people don't know how to parse that out, which is why frameworks are helpful. That's why at the Upskillerator, we're spending time talking through frameworks, because they help categorize and load that into different areas. I want to be so clear that the easiest way to build context is to run a deep research on the thing you want, with the point of view that you want to look at that in, and pull that in to use as context, right? It's just a fast way to load context over and over. So, um,
Yeah.
does that make
You know what I
sense?
found lately, Tim? Yeah, I think one of the things I found lately is I started to become over reliant on deep research being the context. And I've had to really differentiate between things that I am the subject matter expert in, and I just need AI to help me get the context better to it. And I don't have so like, I don't have the view of like, what are all the skill sets and data that goes into the right type of corporate graphic design? That would be a really
Mm,
good example of a deep research I could have run to use as
yep,
context.
right.
But in this grant example, while there is some deep research examples within that, one of the things I was talking to my colleague about was like, hey, instead of just giving, here's the grant, here's all of our information, what I would suggest you do is say, here's the grant, ask me one question at a time what you need, because I don't want to give you too much or too little context. And some of that is just that conversation was happening because it was also like, here's a good foray into how to use AI responsibly and beneficially,
Right.
not
Yep.
just input output. And so I was
Yeah.
I was using that as a demonstrative, but it fits here, right? Which is, I don't always know. I'm a big like over contexter. Like, I put too much context in and then it can't pick what it needs. And so then it's just trying to like meet everything. I'll even do that. Sorry, fire department's going fast. I even do that with deep research where like I will run a couple deep research and put them in. And like, that's not always helpful, or I'll try to put too much in the deep research itself. And so I've actually had to sort of like flip and be like, do I need external context, external expert context that I don't have? Or do I, generally speaking, think the higher language of things like act as an expert or a strategic consultant in fundraising, et cetera, will do? But what I need to give it is, here's all of the context needed. And the example that we were talking about with another colleague last night was, they have an event, a conference where volunteers pick the sessions. They have like 50 slots and over 150 submissions every year. And they know they need to revamp that, but they just don't know how or where to start or some of that stuff. I think you and Dan could come up with a plethora of deep research cases to help with that context. But what we were talking through was, what about that needs to, like, why does that need to change? Sweet. That's how you would talk it out with a colleague. Ask the AI to talk it out with you that way. So figure out, what is it that, like he was talking about, there's an imbalance with the volunteers. They probably have too much control then over who gets in and who gets out. AI can ask you that, and then you can just give it those pointed pain points one at a time and move forward, rather than the concern of, well, here's everything about the event, here's everything about, other places that do this event, and I just want to do this better. Well, that probably isn't going to be the output that I want, comparatively speaking, to the output of, help me get the context you need to figure out the best solution here. So it's been a really fun time talking to nonprofit leaders And like, I mean leaders in the sense of leader, little L and big L, right? Like these are
Right.
literal CEOs and executives of a state association around the nation. So they're seeing this come up, um, but showing them like, if you can get your team to think about it as a thought partner and like how you would have to brainstorm with a person, it's just a little faster and has a much larger context like view what you can do with it. It's been so fun. Like I've been so on fire about like, oh, there's so much promise for what we can do if we can just hack this piece instead of being worried about like I put all the grant information and gave a grant report that I don't know is up to
Yep.
snuff, right?
Right.
So,
Well, and also I think that Nita, I love that idea, by the way. That
I
is a
just put
great
it
way
up
to
there.
go.
Yeah.
I think that is um I think that's exactly right. Another thing to do on this, I've got to back up. AI is always a mirror of what we do or don't know, right? So when we put something
Mhm.
out that was generated by AI, it reveals a lot about what we aren't doing. And people aren't picking up on that yet. This is like the hot take that I had with Arbor last week with uh, Candace Cody about if
Yep.
you say, I can always tell if AI writing is bad, what you're actually telling the world is, I don't know that AI can write well, and I think I'm catching it
Because it's
all.
hiding.
Right. It's
Yeah.
saying something about you, not it. And that is so important to keep in mind that you're revealing a lot about who you are in the way that you are prompting. And
Hmm.
so that's the first thing I would say. Another really interesting cheat code that I've used before is very in line with what Nita just said. I'll just add one more thing to the end and say, teach me what I don't know about this, or for this
Mm,
thing that I need to do, what do I need to know about it? Because if you can make a distinction between here's what you need to know and here's what I don't know yet, you can move more rapidly through that. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's helpful.
the other wild thing is to pull down an export of all of your chats, throw that into a deep research, and say, "Tell me about myself." That is wild.
That is
I
where our
really love it.
privilege is showing, Tim, because we pay for the ability to throw that much context in. There's most of our average users do not have a bot that they could throw all of that in. For what it's worth, people, if you try it
Sure.
and you're like, wait, I can't, that's why.
Yeah. Or open it up and pull the last 10, or, like you are absolutely right. Might not be able to do all of that. Okay. I am so sorry that I have to cut now early, but I have
No, that's
got to
okay.
jump to another thing. So I think we've got to call it here. Um,
I
next
do want to
week.
say one last thing.
Okay.
Sorry, really quickly. The what Megan said here is like the best example of how to learn how to do this is if you're in your car, turning on the actual conversation function helps you think through this in a way that isn't so
Oh my
in your
God.
head.
Yeah. I'm so glad you noted that.
Mhm.
Both Sammy and Megan, this is such a powerful cheat code. I learned over 90 minutes with advanced voice mode all about vector databases, embeddings, and right. I know it's nerdy, but what I'm saying is I was tunneling into my expertise with it. I would
Mhm.
just say all of us have areas where you can either learn something about what you don't know, or you can develop skills that are in alignment with what you already do know. But having
Yes.
it as a conversation partner is a really good way to go. And you get the conversation at the end, right? Which you can
Yeah.
use for context. So I
So,
love that suggestion. Thanks everybody for the great comments. Really
yes.
helpful.
I did send Megan a couple examples specific to Roots Ethiopia and map building, so she's going to test those out for us and let us know how that goes.
I can't wait.
And where AI would typically get it wrong and how she can maybe get ahead of that. So I'll be interested to see what she says there. Next week is our last prompt up the Jan week. And our hope is that we actually will have started and then finish on the call a version of sort of like a catalog for you. So the goal is how do we create consistency from the lessons here? One thing I'm thinking, Tim, as we've been on live is we should make that because I want to try to make the last week of every month sort of the deliverable week. I want to include some of the things we've talked about here. So like the prompt framework that built the second round, some of that stuff. So next week, hopefully
Yeah.
you'll see some of our consistency prompts. And then we'll just kind of keep building out a little resource database for everybody once a month. And then next month is Fluency February, which sounds, Tim, plug your ears. It sounds really boring, but it's not. I promise.
That is awesome. Yes. I mean, we're not going to find something better than prompt up your Jan. Like that was like amazing. I think we might be doing social media March, by the way, so you and I can talk more about
Ooh,
that.
oh
Right.
God, that's a
Yeah.
can of worms. But think about
I
the epic.
know.
Oh my gosh, you're
I
right.
know. It's fun. Okay. Also the in the upskillerator, I'm building out the promptinator, and I might actually turn this into a product, but for sure what I'm doing is creating a way for people to go through a process that we've been going through in the upskillerator this month to know a lot about how to think about prompting, what to do with it, a tool that will help you do that, use that, um, and a way to evaluate that. So, and a way to build
Love.
your own promptinator. So the end goal of this is now you've got a promptinator to do structured prompts that you can do on your own. So that's where we're headed with it. Join the
So
conversation at the Upskillerator. Would love to see you there. Sami, thanks for calling in, even though you're out of town and with a bunch of fancy people. Do you say hi
Megan, I
to
got fingers
Adam?
for you.
What? Wait, what?
Megan's the worst. I said, Megan, I got fingers for you.
Oh,
She
Megan's
said,
the
Tim Lockie,
best.
Sammy is so judgy. The worst.
Yes, I
The
know. It's so
worst.
true. It's so true. We got to put that live here. So,
Well,
um,
I won't be at Upskillerator with you today, but I am so excited for the work you're going to be doing. And for those of you that are joining, again, that's right after this. So Tim, Megan, Upskillerator crew, have the best time, and I will be excited when January is over. I'm a little less chaotic, and I get to join that group on a more consistent basis. But excited for next week. If people have thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, reach out to us in any number of ways. And Tim, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.
likewise. Bye, Sami.
Talk to you later, friends.
Bye, everybody.